I just saw The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, and I have some thoughts. But first I want you to know where I'm coming from. I'm not a fan. Okay, I like it, so I consider myself an appreciator. I don't throw the word fan around for whatever. I don't know lore. I don't know pronunciation, obviously. So when I get things wrong, feel free to politely correct me in the comments. I just feel the need to say that because Lord of the Rings is a very highly respected IP with millions and millions of fans. And so I really just want you guys to know where my perspective is coming from. Someone who enjoys most things from the franchise, especially the video games. You might ask, well then why would you give a shit about this? Probably the stupidest reason ever, but the fact that this animation kind of reminded me of Fire Emblem was really what got me hyped. I don't even know who's in this movie, and I didn't really care. I just wanted to watch hopefully cool shit. But since you don't have mega stars littered throughout the cast, you have to provide something else to drive people to go see your movie. The animation got me. The animation might get a lot of people. If that doesn't work, you have to come with a very heavy story. You have to come with a great story. Unfortunately, I don't think this is. And again, I don't know dick about this story going in. This happens 200 years before Bilbo's adventure. And this chick Hera, who's the daughter of the king of Rohan, named Helm Hammerhand. And the story really focuses around her. She's this adventurous girl. She's such a rebel because she wanders off and wants to go mess around with giant birds. And then all of a sudden, these other fools shows up to the palace. And this big Gordo guy named Freka, he's like, you gotta marry your goofy ass daughter to my son, Wulf. Again, this is not really a whole bunch of spoilers. This is the beginning of the movie, and there's actually a trailer about this. And she's like, nah, I don't need no man, which is her whole MO throughout the entire movie. I don't need no man. So the king and Freka are arguing back and forth, and he's like, oh, and the king's like, you know what? We can't fight in here, but if you want to catch these hands, we can go outside. And they're like, fine, 1v1, you pussy, all this other shit, right? So they go outside for what feels like a friendly spar between homies. Like, I'm gonna kick your ass real quick, and then after we're gonna kiss and make up. That's what this conflict actually felt like. It didn't really feel like they were trying to kill each other, but because apparently this world works like Fire Emblem, there was RNG involved, so the king's one punch was a critical hit, and he actually just kills the fatty. So now his son Wulf and his entire crew are banished from there, and now he wants revenge. And that's what this whole war is about. Just a critical RNG attack gone wrong, which the war itself doesn't actually feel like a war to me. It kind of feels like a couple battles. It all feels like it took place in a weekend, but obviously it didn't. There was more time in preparation, but the pacing of the movie is really weird. It's like very, very fast. It doesn't let anything cook at all, but it's slow and boring at the same time. It's very weird. Again, this movie really tries to make everything about this Hera girl. They give her some daddy issues and your typical bullshit of, yes, I can, daddy. And daddy's like, no, you can't. I must protect. Things we've seen a million times before, yada, yada, yada. My main issue with the whole movie is that every single character feels very bland, and they didn't make me care about anybody. For all I care, they could all die. I don't give a shit. Because the movie didn't make me give a shit. It's especially missing badassery from Hera. The movie wants me to really buy that she's the shit without actually showing me anything worth that title. She fights, and it's like she's the shit because the movie says so. And it's because every character feels so rushed. No character's fleshed out at all. Wulf doesn't make any sense half the time because he goes from wanting to marry her to wanting to kill her to wanting to marry her again, and then wanting to kill her because she doesn't want to marry him. His whole deal is that he wants revenge, but he really feels all over the place character-wise. And he has a good reason to be tripping balls. Like, they killed your daddy. I understand. But nothing was shown to make us see his point of view and kind of relate with him at all. Understand and empathize with him, but none of that is shown. It's just like he just flips out and he's a bad guy because the movie tells me he's a bad guy. And it's just the way that his motivation is executed comes off kind of stupid. It's like, okay, they show up at Rohan demanding this girl's hand, right? They said no. And you don't want to accept the consequences of you just trying to barge in here and demanding, you know, the king's daughter's hand. You f around and you find out. And I get it. He's the bad guy, but he has a legit reason to be pissed, you know? They killed his dad. Plus, again, everybody has zero personality. Everybody's very bland and very boring. Wulf's whole thing is just, he just becomes more of a piece of shit as the movie goes along. And Hera's whole deal is, I'm a strong, independent woman and I don't need a man. Okay, I get it, but they keep hammering over the head with it. It's a point I can't ignore. I don't need no man. That's fine, but then, little spoiler alert, a man shows up at the end and kind of saves her. What? You didn't make no sense, movie. And it's all because you really wanted to hammer home that point. You could have provided a different point of view. It could have been like, why would I marry you? Look how much of a piece of shit you are. You're like starting this whole war or whatever. You could have wrote something compelling and interesting instead of the default mode of I don't need no man. You could say that without saying those exact words, but you chose to say I don't need no man, and then at the end of the day, a man showed up and saved her. What? Okay. And again, I was hopeful, man. I wanted them to do cool shit with the animation. I love all the detail the backgrounds have. Unfortunately, I feel like there's done more for like chase scenes and when they're running away than when there's like hand-in-hand combat. I do feel like the choreography is very basic. Tink, tink, you know, tink, tink, tink. They don't do anything outrageously amazing that you must go see. You have to go see this fight. There's probably one fight versus just one giant thing that looked kind of cool. But other than that, the fighting is really meh to okay. I feel like the costumes are very dope, but don't necessarily say Lord of the Rings to me when I look at it. Actually, none of the movie visually says Lord of the Rings to me. It's very odd. But again, I enjoyed the animation. I didn't even notice till the end of the movie that Brian Cox voiced King Helm. So that's pretty cool. And again, I did not know anything about the story about this war going in. I did after doing some research, and I, tried to get the lowdown on what happened in this war. And according to the Tolkien books, it looks like the studio just did what they always do. They grabbed a story and with it and injected their dumbass ideas and their stupid agendas for a boring, mediocre product. I'm slowly coming to terms that we're in the era of grabbing great source material and then bastardizing them, right? If you're gonna do that though, if you're going to take a legendary IP and just shit all over it and do whatever you want, could you at least do something cool? Could you at least be entertaining? What was the whole point of this movie then? If you want to be a girl boss, could she at least be a badass? And take some time to flesh out the character and develop her and all this? Like, no, I'm just supposed to sit here and believe she's a badass because you're telling me so, and then don't proceed to do badass shit, but then proceed to kill all these people without any training or without any nothing just because she hangs out with eagles? Explain that to me. Why'd you decide to focus on this girl? The movie itself says there aren't any tales about this lady, nowhere near. And I know why, because she's boring. So Hera isn't even mentioned in this tale. From what I gathered, she's just known as the king's daughter. She don't even have a name. So why would you pick this character who has no lore? Maybe that's why, because it has no lore and you can just do whatever the you want. You got it. That's why. The original tale, from what I gathered from a couple YouTube videos, and again, if I get anything wrong, feel free to correct me down in the comments. The story is more about Helm, the king, and Wulf. The secondary characters are his sons and his nephew, in true Tolkien fashion, no ladies. But from what I gathered from the story is more about how he came to the name Hammerhand and that legend that grew, what he did to earn that name and the lore behind him. And it is a war that started over basically a Falcon Punch. Falcon! But Wulf is less bloodthirsty and less blinded by rage. And from what I gathered in the book than in the movie. And it makes more sense. And the conclusion also makes sense. And they kind of tried to mix what happens in the book with their own bullshit in the movie to kind of end the story like the book does. It just really feels forced. I mean, even if you read the description of the IMDb of this movie, Homegirl isn't mentioned at all. It says a sudden attack by Wulf, a clever and ruthless Dunlending lord seeking vengeance for the death of his father, forces Helm Hammerhand, the king of Rohan, and his people to make a dying last stand in the ancient stronghold of Hornburg. Where does it mention Hera at all? Nowhere never. Where is she in the movie? Throughout the whole damn movie, she the hero of the movie. Oh, my bad. P.S. It says Hera is the shit. Oh, I didn't read that part. My bad. I feel stupid even saying this. I'm obviously not against female protagonists. Okay? I loved Arcane. And that whole movie is about bad bitches. All right? I don't care who is the main protagonist. Here's the biggest example. You could even be boring. But if you're doing cool shit, I give you a pass. Case in point. Leon Kennedy from Resident Evil 4. He's the most boring character in the Resident Evil franchise. He is. He's bland and generic. But he's cool as shit. Why? Because he runs around popping zombies in the face. So you could even be boring. But you gotta do cool shit. And this movie's like, this girl's the shit, but they don't proceed to do cool shit. But judging by the fact that I was the only person in the theater It doesn't seem like no one else gives a shit about this movie. This is the first time I've ever been by myself in a gigantic theater. This is like only the second or third time I've gone to the movies by myself. I don't even like doing that. But I'd never been in the theater by myself. It felt so weird. It was actually low-key kind of creepy. Hopefully this is a preview to when I'm a billionaire off of YouTube and I can watch movies in my gigantic theater. I need you to subscribe so that happens. It could really just be the fact that it was a really early showing, but still, it doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of hype around this movie or anything. It's just doing what every movie adaptation is doing now, taking source material, messing it up, and then putting it out. But this model is so stupid because the people who would go see this movie are not going to go see this movie because you pissed them off. I don't get it how nobody learns from other people's mistakes. Just copy and paste, man. You don't want to copy and paste. Come up with new shit. I'm not a fan of the Lord of the Rings, but I know that the Lord of the Rings fans are going to hate this. And I just thought it was mid. I don't think it's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life, but I feel like it could have been way better, and that's what's really disappointing. I do not think this is worth your ticket price. If you're really curious about this movie, just give it a couple months. It's probably going to be on Max. I'm highly disappointed in the lack of storytelling, and the way that they decided to do the storytelling was not great at all. The movie lost me a third of the way through, 2/3 of the way through. It brought me back in because interesting stuff started to happen, but then towards the end, it lost me again. But yeah, those were my thoughts on the Lord of the Rings, the War of the Rohirrim. But I would love to know what you think. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you excited to watch it? Any and all the Lord of the Rings thoughts, let me know down in the comments. And while you're down there, if you could drop a like and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to always and forever, you do you.